episode 130.
Harry Potter, sir, Dobby has come to warn you, but the house elves have been warned not to tell.
He ran headfirst at the wall. Harry, who had some experience of Dobby's habits of self-punishment, made to seize him, but Dobby merely bounced off the stone, cushioned by his 8 hats. Hermione and a few of the other girls let out squeaks of fear and sympathy. "What's happened, Dobby?" Harry asked, grabbing the elf's tiny arm and holding him away from anything which he might use to hurt himself.
Harry Potter, she...
Dobby hit himself hard on the nose with his free fist. Harry seized that too. "Who's she, Dobby?" But he thought he knew. Surely only one she could induce such fear in Dobby. The elf looked up at him, slightly cross-eyed, and mouthed wordlessly. "Umbridge?" asked Harry, horrified. Dobby nodded, then tried to bang his head off Harry's knees. Harry held him at bay. "What about her, Dobby? She hasn't found out about this, about us, about the DA?" He read the answer in the elf's stricken face. His hands held fast by Harry, the elf tried to kick himself and fell to the floor. "Is she coming?" Harry asked quietly. Dobby let out a howl and began beating his bare feet hard on the floor.
Yes, Harry Potter, yes!
Harry straightened up and looked around at the motionless, terrified people gazing at the thrashing elf. "Well, what are you waiting for?" Harry bellowed. "Run!" They all pelted toward the exit at once, forming a scrum at the door. Then people burst through. Harry could hear them sprinting along the corridors and hoped they had the sense not to try and make it all the way to their dormitories. It was only 10 to 9. If they just took refuge in the library or the owlery, which were both nearer.
Harry, come on!
Shrieked Hermione from the center of the knot of people, now fighting to get out. He scooped up Dobby, who was still attempting to do himself serious injury, and ran with the elf in his arms to join the back of the queue. "Dobby, this is an order. Get back down to the kitchen with the other elves, and if she asks you whether you warned me, lie and say no," said Harry. "And I forbid you to hurt yourself," he added, dropping the elf as he made it over the threshold at last and slamming the door behind him.
"Thank you, Harry Potter!"
squeaked Dobby, and he streaked off. Harry glanced left and right. The others were all moving so fast that he caught only glimpses of flying heels at either end of the corridor before they vanished. He started to run right. There was a boys' bathroom up ahead. He could pretend he'd been there all the time if he could just reach it. "Ah!" Something caught him around the ankles, and he fell spectacularly, skidding along on his front for 6 feet before coming to a halt. Someone behind him was laughing. He rolled over onto his back and saw Malfoy, concealed in a niche beneath an ugly dragon-shaped vase. "Trapjanks, Potter," he said. "Hi, Professor! Professor! I've got one!" Umbridge came bustling around the far corner, breathless but wearing a delighted smile.
"It's him!"
she said jubilantly at the sight of Harry on the floor.
"Excellent, Draco. Excellent. Oh, very good. 50 points to Slytherin. I'll take him from here. Stand up, Potter."
Harry got to his feet, glaring at the pair of them. He had never seen Umbridge looking so happy. She seized his arm in a vice-like grip and turned, beaming broadly, to Draco.
"You hop along and see if you can round up any more of them, Mr. Malfoy," she said. "Tell the others to look in the library. Anybody out of breath? Check the bathrooms. Miss Parkinson can do the girls' ones. Off you go. And you,"
she said in her softest, most dangerous voice, as Malfoy walked away.
"you can come with me to the headmaster's office, Potter."
They were at the stone gargoyle within minutes. Harry wondered how many of the others had been caught. He thought of Ron. Mrs. Weasley would kill him. And of how Hermione would feel if she was expelled before she could take her owls. And it had been Seamus's very first meeting. And Neville had been getting so good.
"Fizzing Wisby,"
sang Umbridge, and the stone gargoyle jumped aside. The wall behind split open, and they ascended the moving stone staircase. They reached the polished door with the griffin knocker, but Umbridge did not bother to knock. She strode straight inside, still holding tight to Harry. The office was full of people. Dumbledore was sitting behind his desk, his expression serene, the tips of his long fingers together. Professor McGonagall stood rigidly beside him, her face extremely tense. Cornelius Fudge, Minister of Magic, was rocking backward and forward on his toes beside the fire, apparently immensely pleased with the situation. Kingsley Shacklebolt and a tough-looking wizard Harry did not recognize, with very short, wiry hair, were positioned on either side of the door, like guards, and the freckled, bespectacled form of Percy Weasley hovered excitedly beside the wall, a quill and a heavy scroll of parchment in his hands, apparently poised to take notes. The portraits of the old headmasters and mistresses were not shamming sleep tonight. All of them were watching what was happening below, alert and serious. As Harry entered, a few flitted into neighboring frames and whispered urgently into their neighbors' ears. Harry pulled himself free of Umbridge's grasp as the door swung shut behind them. Cornelius Fudge was glaring at him with a kind of vicious satisfaction upon his face. "Well," he said. Well. Harry replied with the dirtiest look he could muster. His heart drummed madly inside him, but his brain was oddly cool and clear.
"He was heading back to Gryffindor Tower," said Umbridge.
There was an indecent excitement in her voice, the same callous pleasure Harry had heard as she watched Professor Trelawney dissolving with misery in the entrance hall.
"The Malfoy boy cornered him."
Biddy, said Fudge appreciatively. "I must remember to tell Lucius. Well, Potter, I expect you know why you are here."
Harry fully intended to respond with a defiant "yes." His mouth had opened, and the word was half-formed when he caught sight of Dumbledore's face. Dumbledore was not looking directly at Harry. His eyes were fixed upon a point just over his shoulder. But as Harry stared at him, he shook his head a fraction of an inch to each side. Harry changed direction mid-word. No."
"I beg your pardon,"
said Fudge. "No," said Harry, firmly.
"You don't know why you are here."
"No, I don't," said Harry. Fudge looked incredulously from Harry to Professor Umbridge. Harry took advantage of his momentary inattention to steal another quick look at Dumbledore, who gave the carpet the tiniest of nods and the shadow of a wink.
"So you have no idea,"
said Fudge, in a voice positively sagging with sarcasm,
"why Professor Umbridge has brought you to his office? You are not aware that you have broken any school rules."
"School rules," said Harry. "No."
"Or ministry decrees,"
amended Fudge angrily. "Not that I'm aware of," said Harry blandly. His heart was still hammering very fast. It was almost worth telling these lies to watch Fudge's blood pressure rising, but he could not see how on earth he would ever get away with them. If somebody had tipped off Umbridge about the DA, then he, the leader, might as well be packing his trunk right now.
"So it's news to you, is it?"
said Fudge, his voice now thick with anger.
"That an illegal student organization has been discovered within this school?"
"Yes, it is," said Harry, hoisting an unconvincing look of innocent surprise onto his face.
"I think, Minister,"
said Umbridge silkily from beside him,
"we might make better progress if I fetch our informant."